Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Redmen TV and your latest episode of Oppo Preview. My name is Dan Club. I'm delighted to be joined by the incredible Julien Laurens for this one. Julien, my friend, how are you? Okay?
Very good, and you? Thank you for having me on.
My pleasure, mate. Massively appreciate you joining me. We're here to look ahead to Liverpool against PSG, two-legged Champions League round of 16 clash, of course. PSG having come through the playoffs in some style, I think it's fair to say. Yeah, it's a mouth-watering clash we've got in store. Really is. Like, on form, we were just joking off air, like, this could be a final. Luis Enrique said the same thing, but in terms of domestic form, two teams right at the peak of their powers. Let's get the perspective from Paris then, from yourself, Julien. Obviously, form-wise, 13 points clear on the top of Liga, 4-1 win over Lille at the weekend, resounding win in the French Cup recently as well, dismantled Brest, as I mentioned, in the playoff. Yeah, not beaten since late November. Paris are flying.
Yeah, you're right. This is the best football they've played really under Luis Enrique since he arrived like 18 months ago at the club. I think this is the best that this team has played in a very, very long time, maybe going back to the time of Laurent Blanc as a head coach and the midfield with Thiago Motta, Verratti and Matuidi. But I think this team, as young as this team still is, because it's still a very young team, one of the youngest in the Champions League, is probably an even better team, certainly with even better potential, bigger potential than the one of Motta and Verratti and Blanc. So at the moment, it's just near perfection at times. We saw that in the first half against Lille on Saturday night, where they destroyed them in that first 45 minutes, scoring 4 goals, 4 different goal scorers. You said they haven't lost since November away at Bayern. They've only lost 2 games this season. They were away at Arsenal and away at Bayern, and that's it. Domestically, they're too good anyway. And in Europe, I think the turning point might be that win against City in the league phase, where they were 2 goals down at the start of the second half and just blew them away completely for the next 40 minutes or so to win 4-2. And I think things had started to click a little bit before that, but that game against City felt very much like, okay, we understand now what we have to do to be able to be almost at our best. And that's what they've been doing ever since, really. So they haven't looked back since that City win.
No, definitely not. And obviously, I mentioned having to get through the playoffs. That wouldn't have been the aim at the start of the season. Obviously, when it comes to Europe, they would have wanted to have qualified in the top 8, maybe even, around Liverpool and Barcelona, who knows. But they got to grips with it. They are where they are now, around the 16 knockout phase, which is, of course, where they want to be, where they feel they belong. I think it's fair to say as well. Yeah. But in terms of the European credentials, obviously, the Champions League and PSG has been such a thing. It's been such a story down the years recently. Do you think they are now sort of best placed in a more sort of likely proposition to go and do something massive in Europe?
It's a good question. It's interesting because at the start of the season, the narrative very much from the club to us, but also publicly from Luis Enrique, even some of the players, was like, listen, this is a project and this is really the start of the project. Now there's no more Mbappe, no Messi, no Neymar, which is what Luis Enrique wanted. And he's always said this team is going to be better as a team, certainly without all those superstars. And I think he's right now. But they said this is the start of the project. And this is a young team. This is not a team that can win the Champions League this season. This is not like in May or in June. This is a team that maybe next season, maybe more likely the one after that, should be ready, should be in the position to compete with Liverpool and City and Real Madrid and Bayern Munich, those kind of teams. Not now. So you could say in a way they seem to be ahead of schedule, really, because of how they're playing right now. But maybe those 2 games against Liverpool will remind us that they maybe are where they are and not ahead of schedule, in the sense that they still may be a little bit early to compete over 2 legs with a team like Liverpool, and even probably a team like Bayern or maybe Arsenal or maybe Real Madrid, maybe Atletico Madrid, maybe even Barcelona, those kind of teams yet, because it's still a young team with a lot of things to learn, and yet they play great football with and without the ball. There's a lot of really good things about them that make you like them more than before. People didn't used to like PSG. Now, if you watch them, it's fun, it's entertaining, and a lot of people have said to me recently, "Oh, I hated your team for a long time, but now it's fun watching them," which is a win in itself. But are they ready to be able to compete over 2 games with a team like Liverpool? We'll have the answer now, but they might just not be ready yet.
No, it's a really fascinating one. You're right. That shift in approach from PSG has obviously been, no more superstar names, though they still exist at the football club, of course, do, but they aren't the focal point. It's become, as you say,
Yeah.
a different project, and it's actually translated into a different viewing experience for those outsiders and not fans of the football club as well. Just to touch on injuries, if you don't mind, before moving on. I had a quick look this morning. Looks like you're in a decent position, quite a clean bill of health, really. I even seeing Warren Zaire-Emery's back, which is a big boost.
Yeah. Yeah, massively gives you another option in midfield. And when we talk about the team that should start on Wednesday, there will be a couple of question marks over who Luis Enrique goes for in midfield and up front. And Warren is part of that possible option for him with Fabian Ruiz and the two Portuguese, Vitinha and João Neves. There will be three of those five that will be picked. We know that already. Or I guess Doué can play there, but it should be three of those four. Sorry, not five, three of those four. But yeah, everybody is fit and ready. PSG used to have in the past, often before a big Champions League tie like this, knockout tie, injuries or worries about misform and things like that, doubts, and doesn't seem to be the case so far this year.
No, not at all. Yeah, it must admit it put me on the back foot a little bit when I checked the peer. I was wondering if I was checking the right website because, surely they must have some problem somewhere, but seemingly not. In terms of the key players, you mentioned some names along the way there. Ousmane Dembele's numbers are astonishing this season. He's really sort of come of age, if you like, in that team. Bradley Barcola, we know about. Obviously, Kvaratskhelia, a mid-season arrival. Kimpembe, Marquinhos, the experience that he offers. All big names, all key players, of course. Who would be the ones you'd really look to as being pivotal for this game in particular?
So in terms of how PSG play, before we go into how they can exploit maybe some Liverpool weaknesses, I think Vitinha is literally the one that makes this team click and that everything goes through him. And if he has a good day, if he can bust that midfield with Neves and Ruiz or Neves and Zaire-Emery or Neves and Doué, then you can't really stop this team with the ball, I mean. And Vitinha has been outstanding last year and this year, really incredible. I think at some point he will be so good that even as much as I would love him to stay forever at PSG, he can go to a better club like a Liverpool without that and play in a midfield too, or even on his own as a holding midfielder. He's that great on the ball, off the ball, the intelligence, the stamina, just for me, apart from the size, obviously because he's quite small and not the most muscular, but he's got really everything. So I would say him as the most important from a PSG point of view on how they play their game and the Luis Enrique style. Otherwise, to face Trent and Robertson, which I think that's where PSG can hurt Liverpool, it has to be Barcola and Dembele, or if Dembele plays central, then a Doué or Kvaratskhelia.
Okay, really interesting. Yeah, in terms of going the other way then, I wanted to pick up on one potential position from a PSG point of view, because obviously a lot of what Liverpool look to do in the way of hurting teams goes through Mohamed Salah. The left back, likely to be Nuno Mendes, and how will he sort of cope with that battle?
It's another key, of course, like a Barcola, Alexander-Arnold kind of matchup. The matchup between Nuno Mendes and Salah is the other one. I would not say that Nuno Mendes' best attribute is his defending. He's a bit like Trent. He's so good going forward. He's super quick. He's quite physical. But on one-on-one situations, at times, he struggles a bit. We've seen that even in Ligue 1 this season, not just in the Champions League, but also in Ligue 1. I think he struggles when you come inside. So Salah coming to his left foot, so inside could be a bit of a problem, I think, for Nuno. And usually he gets help a lot from either Pacho, who is the left side centre back, or more likely, I think, in this game, João Neves. The way PSG will set up tactically, Neves as a midfield, like a number 8, will come a lot and help a lot Nuno Mendes against Salah, but also I guess against Trent when Trent will go forward. So that dynamic on the pitch would be interesting between, let's say, Trent, Gravenberch and Salah on your side, and Nuno, João Neves and Barcola on my side.
Yeah, whoever wins that battle could well come out the victors. The two triangles there,
In
isn't
both
it?
ways,
Yeah.
exactly. Attackingly and defensively.
No, massive area of the pitch, it feels like. In terms of the tactics, in terms of the approach and the systems that Enrique is likely to go with, you touched on it just there, but more in terms of the way he wants his team to play. I think he's come out and said already they'll carry on their natural game, they'll be front-footed, they'll be aggressive. Is that how you expect it? And is that what you imagine he might say?
Yeah, no, I think so. He said something that I really liked. He said, we won't be scared. This is a team like, I think they really want to enjoy those two games. And then if Liverpool are better, Liverpool are better. As we said, right now in the progression of this young PSG team, there's no shame in being knocked out by Liverpool, the best team in Europe right now. Do you know what I mean? It's not like you play Cercle Bruges or something like that. So they will go for their game. Their game is, you're right, being super aggressive. So expect a high press, like a man-to-man press straight away. So there will be, everybody will have a man to follow. So Nuno Mendes will stay with Salah, for example. Hakimi will stay with Luis Diaz, let's say. If we have Szoboszlai, Jota, for example, centrally, I think Marquinhos and Pacho will be on both of them. And then, so just imagine that press. They will be very, very aggressive, very high defensively, the defensive high line for sure. So there will probably be something there for Liverpool to exploit. Balls over the top, runs from Szoboszlai from deep, runs from Luis Diaz, again in behind. That is to be expected. Donnarumma and PSG are not the best on set pieces. So again, I think Trent's quality on set pieces for Van Dijk, for Konate, could be interesting. Even we saw McAllister scoring on set pieces too. So that's one for PSG from PSG point of view to be wary of. But I liked a lot of what Lille did when they came to Anfield. If you remember, until the Salah goal and the ball from Curtis Jones, they kept it really narrow. Their shape was very narrow to prevent the axis of Virgil, Gravenberch and Szoboszlai to be really heavily involved in the build-up phase of the game for Liverpool. And I thought that worked quite well for that first half hour, because that's obviously a strength from Liverpool, finding Gravenberch between the line for him to turn and then to move the ball forward, for example, things like that, for him to find Szoboszlai. If you kind of prevent that ball from Konate or Van Dijk towards Gravenberch and then Szoboszlai, you force Liverpool to go wide, which is not what they will do in the first phase of their build-up, for example. So I thought that was interesting, but knowing Luis Enrique, I think they will play their game. I don't think there will be a slight tweak. They will go man for man in the press, and then it will be a question of who can be who in one-on-one situations, really, to beat the press, or on the other hand, to be very good with your pressing and recover the ball quite high.
Yeah, it sounds like both teams are going to go at it.
They'll do the same. That's why it'd be so much fun, I think, because they are two attacking sides that go for it, really.
With tons and tons of quality as well in both outfits as well.